I'm sure you guys already know the program at this point. This week in the last in Blue Archive the Animation, we took a fun trip to the aquarium, learned some new information about Hoshino, and finally took a step forward and ventured into the heart of the Abydos desert. While not really two parts of a whole, episodes 8 and 9 shared similar intentions and ideas and complemented each other quite well. This fun, carefree slice of life with tender but somber undertones that transitions into the last step before the story enters the final act, with a fair few anime original moments that turn this part of the story into what is basically a brand new experience. I was surprised by how many supplementary additions were made to this section of the story, and to say that I didn't appreciate the extra details and bits of character that came with such additions would be a lie. I loved it, thought the rearrangements benefited the story in the way that the anime wanted to tell the story of the volume and played into its strengths, and believe that these two episodes alone have proven the anime to be, in some part, a very fitting complement to the game itself, and something worth its while if you haven't thought so of it already. There's a lot to love, so let's start with the obvious. Episode 8 was a majority slice of life, and well, you're gonna have to kill me dead twice over before I say anything slice of life is bad. In idea and execution, it's the definition of filler since it's not something that exists in the main story in the source material. The closest thing to it is Hoshino's Momo Talks, but translating this moment into an activity for all the Abydos students makes it so the passing comment made by Hoshino doesn't become a random throwaway line only accessible through side content, and gives the characters a brand new chance to just be themselves. Whether they were just simple, cute and funny character moments, or moments that have some amount of subtext and subtle characterization to them, the aquarium trip gave birth to its fair share of entertaining bits. Some of it is just not worth reading into and exists to be fun. I have a feeling that I would actually go insane trying to extrapolate a deeper meaning out of Hoshino and Serika arguing whether a tropical fish is delicious or cute. But I can liken it to the time in the source material where the Gourmet Research Society stole fish from an aquarium because they can. There's a couple of points overall where there's not much meaning outside of the fact that they're cute and may reference other parts of the story, like the random appearance of both Yuka and Noah. This caused some crazy whiplash, not even gonna lie. It marks off another character from the tutorial being given a speaking role, and it makes me happy, but that's about it. Their presence in the episode is small, their impact non-existent, it could have really been anyone else, and it only sparks the question for both anime-onlys and game players alike. Are they gonna use them later or something? Why are they here? That alone kinda gets the Volume 2 cope going, but with just 30 seconds of screen time, I don't know how long that's gonna last. But other than those two instances, I do believe that there's a good amount of character that you can read into in any given scene of the slice of life. Subtle things about the Abydos students and their dynamics and their individual characters, even if those things are relatively mild. Like for example, the pretty stark difference in how each of the Abydos students see Hoshino. When comparing her to different aquatic creatures, there's a big difference between Ayane's comparison to a jellyfish and Nanomi's to a penguin, a rockhopper here. I think it shows the difference in how Hoshino was when the two first met her. Ayane is a first year, so she's likely only familiar with Hoshino's current sleepy Oji-san demeanor, one created after the death of Yume, while Nanomi has been around Hoshino for slightly longer, a year longer, and is more familiar with her former persona in previous years. At this point, our view of Hoshino would maybe align more with Ayane's, as there hasn't been that much of a peek into Hoshino's past, but Nanomi's is telling of something below her cute exterior. Penguins are fiercely protective of their youth and are very clearly territorial, but on the surface they are just kinda cute, much like Hoshino. It's a part that doesn't mean much on its own, but paired with Shiriko's reasoning behind comparing her to a whale, and the extra knowledge of young Hoshino that's given in the anime, it makes a nice picture of how everyone in Abydos sees their only third year. She's someone who exists far beyond any individual person's perception. And of course, the episodes themselves have been giving Hoshino a clear picture of her own as well. Every passing episode does more and more to give her a clear and defined spotlight and character, far more than I think the source material did here. As kind of the main student and the most important of the volume, I would say, it only makes sense, and I am absolutely a fan of what they've done with her character here in the anime. So many extra details here that tell you so much, details that you may only find in supplementary side content in the game, and it starts from this relatively innocent slice of life section and her sheer enthusiasm for it. Her knowledge and childlike excitement is something completely disconnected from the Hoshino we've come to know and is a bit crazy to see, but it's a part of her that has clearly just laid dormant, not spawned out of nowhere. It's a side of the character that feels so foreign but so fitting at the same time. She has an affinity for marine life, loves it to no end, but never had the opportunity to be excited about it like this. Her youthful high school days and innocence were stripped away by the school's circumstances and the death of her senpai, so this break is a treat for both Hoshino herself and us, the viewer, as it's provided a sense of relief from all the background dealings that have been going on and we've bore witness to. But this bit of characterization is also going to add salt to the wound to an extent, since we've seen her so blissful, so in her element, finally dropping the Oji-san facade and acting like a kid for once, like a kid on Christmas Day. We know what passions and joys of youth she's willing to sacrifice if it means a better future for her classmates and her school. It plays so well from the aquarium slice of life into the immediate follow-up aftermath. The imagery in this scene is so great, it's stellar, love it to bits, as it burns in this brewing feeling of things not being right. Everyone's got their new expensive toy they milked out of Sensei, a replacement for Shiriko's bouncing toy that broke in the last episode, but more importantly, it's a memento of a precious memory spent together in their youth. But while everyone else is spending their night gazing closely and fondly upon their cherished symbol of friendship in their warmly lit rooms and pajamas, Hoshino sits distant, unchanged, and only illuminated by cold moonlight. While the day may have been fun, as soon as the joy of the moment wears off, Hoshino returns to her solace with the weight she bears alone: the school, her role, and the death of someone close to her. She shifts her gaze from the symbol of the present to a symbol of the past. I don't think any subs do a perfect job of translating what she's saying, but it's apparent in how she talks that she's held up on living up to Yumei's example, being a worthy senpai. And why would she not be? Considering the dynamic between the two, the impression and example that Yumei set for Hoshino would continually persist. It feels to me that she feels as if she needs to excel, to make as big a sacrifice to the school as her predecessor, a line of logic that completely excludes the feelings of her kohai, who are, at this point, mostly taking their life and situation one day at a time, willing to put up with it as long as they're doing it together. Distant but aware of their feelings, Hoshino is willing to hide her intentions to make her efforts painless for them, but unaware that no matter what she does, it's going to cause them pain regardless, since it's a harsh betrayal of everything they've worked up to so far. That was everything I could take from episode 8. The next episode takes all this information and builds upon it. Of course, episode 9 is a more direct adaptation of certain game episodes and is a more typical Blue Archive the Animation episode without the combat scenes, but it still has a fair share of anime original surprises, like Yumei getting voiced, which I found to be insane. I said in the episode 7 video that it made sense that she wasn't going to get voiced for the little referencing that she had in that episode, but as it turns out, it was just being saved for a few episodes later. Like I said, I love being wrong about certain parts of this show. This new voice and almost full visual appearance for Yumei in the flashback scenes feels like a benefit of her being given an actual identity in the new Volume 1 chapter, and being able to see these small snippets of Hoshino's past in full color is yet another unexpected surprise from the anime. While most of this was already seen in text, seeing it animated added extra emotional layers that would otherwise be left mostly up to the imagination. You can feel how deep the trauma runs, as touching on that trauma is another one of those rare moments where Hoshino visibly breaks character, and you can see the personality that Hoshino took from in full view as well. Shades of Yumei echo throughout everything Hoshino does. Upbeat, never worrying, and someone who's reliable despite their silly words and actions sometimes. Things that Hoshino may not have fully appreciated while she was around, but Yumei's influence rubbed off heavily and left big shoes to fill, in both the role of the head of Abydos and simply just a senpai. And it's damn apparent that Hoshino still holds grief over everything that happened. It's only understandable. She still looks upon the tattered poster for the Abydos Sand Festival with longing eyes, speaks of her memories with Yumei with that same sense of longing, and only snaps and breaks into her more youthful rage when Yumei's existence was mocked by the PMC director. It's all a type of grief that you can feel, and I think the biggest thing to perhaps rub off on her is Yumei's belief in miracles. Not necessarily because she believes them to be possible post-mortem, but it's those words that make her act. It's the foundation of this whole divide between Hoshino and the rest of Abydos, as to her, those empty shoes make it so she believes that only she can make those miracles happen. But of course, those thoughts are not ones that go uncontested. Both the confrontations with Shiriko and Sensei were adapted, and a new extra one was given in the anime at the aquarium. The ones that were more directly adapted from the source had a similar feel, but to an extent you can feel a mild change in tone, one that turns the whole confrontation from initially aggressive to completely tender. The escalation of emotions matches the structure of the anime, and while there are less words total due to some text being lost in adaptation, I'd say the anime does its part quite well. The aquarium confrontation with Shiriko and Hoshino was quite beautiful as far as the scenes in the anime go, and I'm not just speaking from a visual standpoint or anything. It's a short scene that's sandwiched between two fun slice-of-life cuts, but it stands out as an honest heart-to-heart that more properly expresses the root of Shiriko's concerns, and more properly shows her love for Hoshino. Shiriko understands Hoshino's position as someone larger than her own perception. She's multifaceted with a large, unviewable full picture. But the part that matters to her, Shiriko, is the Hoshino that's her dear friend, the Hoshino that gave her a home when she was alone and she had nobody else to turn to. If Hoshino had seen and accepted Shiriko at her worst, when she was new to the world without a purpose, I'm certain Shiriko would hope that Hoshino would reciprocate that solidarity and let Shiriko and everyone else help her with what she's troubled with as well. But it's also here where the giant distance between Hoshino and the rest of Abydos begins to grow larger. Despite everything, she refuses to look at the problem in the face. She wants to continue fighting alone. While Shiriko is opposed to the idea of keeping secrets and repeatedly extends her hand, Hoshino continues to duck the questioning through her words and actions, which only leads to more suspicion and an inevitable confrontation that can't be escaped by playing coy. The classroom confrontation is a more direct adaptation of a scene from the source, and it's here where Shiriko takes on a more aggressive tone after finding a crucial piece of evidence. I mean, I would too. I think her reaction in both the source and in this anime is completely justified, but whether it's through the voice acting or the wording or whatever, I don't think her aggressiveness is as intense as the source. It feels more like an immediate response to figuring it out, rather than something that's been welling up since the first hint of oddities, which may actually be the aquarium scene being able to pad out her emotions beforehand. But regardless of its intensity, it still services as yet another contrast to the rest of Abydos and their relatively joyful existence, especially since both Shiriko and Hoshino continue to keep their secrets. Normal teenage girls living their lives normally and happily, while the two most exceptional, the two most abnormal characters in the group have had this invisible line drawn deep in the sand that, in a way, spells out that neither of them exist in the same way that the others do, though that line had already been drawn for quite a while. And the only one who gets to be let in on the secret is Sensei. Shiriko bringing the reality of the situation to Sensei is one of the first times that he becomes involved in a more personal matter. No combat, no silliness, but a very human problem of trust and responsibility. Handling this moment is a stepping stone for Sensei's character, as it directly puts him into the role of an adult, someone who has lived and experienced more than those whom he looks after, as opposed to a general tactician or whatever. Confronting Hoshino about her withdrawal from the school is an act that spells out everything we need to know, how much Hoshino loves and cares for the school, and finally cornered with the truth, Hoshino is unable to run away and can only reassure Sensei that things are going to be fine. But no matter what she says, there's still that looming feeling that it won't be, and we know it won't. I think Hoshino is very smart, dangerously so. She's able to single-handedly dictate the tone, direction, and stopping point of conversations, and is able to take advantage of her environment to do so as well. And even when she's talking about being a silly Oji-san and whatnot, she's still able to passively command the conversation in her favor. Given that in the time he spent with everyone, he trusts them enough to make the right decision. I don't think there's much Sensei could have done to stop Hoshino from doing what she does. She's clearly made up her mind by now, but as an adult, it's his responsibility to fix up the mess that her actions will leave behind. That part is truly what's important for him. And for the adaptation changes, she doesn't mention Black Suit here, that's basically the only major difference. She's probably gonna talk about him sometime or later. Sorry, I actually haven't had that many opportunities to talk about adaptation changes. I've been kinda locked into this script. There's simultaneously not that many and too many to count. As more information is learned and more things happen in episode 9, you can begin to feel the frustration, confusion, and fury of the Abydos students as their situation continues to grow more and more dire. While Hoshino is the one who plays these situations straight as of now, it's gonna fall to Sensei to find their collective strength and find the right path onward, as this has officially become a battle between not only students, but adults as well. A grimy, drawn-out battle that isn't won by simply emerging victorious in a gunfight. I'd even say it's a battle that can't truly be won by the man who's not in power, since the advantage here is embedded deeply within the system. But if there's anyone that can make the impossible possible, it's Sensei. To sum up my thoughts on the episodes themselves, they were great, honestly. The slice of life was good, the emotional moments were good, the anime original scenes were good, and the part where they spend time walking into the desert and doing shit at the PMC building is trimmed well enough that it makes me go, well, man, I really don't know why this was 6 game episodes. They could have just not had those combat scenes. Safe to say, I don't think the source material is perfect either. It also still has the Volume F foreshadowing, but it's also hard to tell if it's enough to be called foreshadowing or just a present motivation. It's all to say that these episodes have kept the second half of the anime going strong. All the new supplementary stuff was a pleasant surprise. I'd say that at least this stuff is worth checking out if you're already caught up on the story, since it's nice to just see some of it play out regardless of your opinion on the adaptation. I just really hope that Sensei steps up or everything will be for naught. And that's about it for me this time around. Same day delivery, anybody? The script was finished, recorded, and edited very, very close together. almost dangerously close together. Can you tell? I had a lot to talk about, but honestly not that much this week considering it's 2 episodes, since the best parts of these 2 episodes was the consistent character study. Regardless, like the episode, agree with me, disagree? Leave it down below, and drop a freaking subscribe as well. But other than that, it's time to wrap it up. You know the drill. Follow me on Twitter for goodness, join the Discord to talk archive, and as always, happy camping, senseis.